Where I'm placed, my little capacity building organization, is in something in Waterloo called the Accelerator Center. And it's an incubator or a hub, or whatever the language is, for startup technology. So all of my peers in this group are about 23 years old, and they're mostly all people with engineering and computer kinds of backgrounds. And just by the nature of the places, they're all working on some technology, new product or service. And this Accelerator Center is a place where they are for several years while they try and launch their businesses. And again, many of those technology businesses are around social good. And again, I'm impressed that it doesn't matter at all to them at this stage whether it's for-profit or not-for-profit. It's all about doing something to, solve some big world problems. Maybe for young people that just all makes common sense, but I sort of came through school at a time when you either went into a profession where you're going to do good work, or you went into a profession where you're going to make a lot of money. And to this, or make some money, I suppose, but to this day, I'm so embarrassed by my colleagues in nonprofits who will say, when I say I'm working at the Accelerator Center, and they'll say, well, they're just all there, it's all about making money. I say, that's so far from my experience and the reality, so when we look at capacity building and we talk about multi-sectoral capacity building, I think a whole challenge for us who've spent careers in the nonprofits is to realize that we don't have the corner on the market, and that it's not just about inviting people to come and volunteer in our nonprofits. It's about figuring out ways that we work together where we don't see ourselves as the ones that are going to manage and control, but that it truly is an equitable kind of partnership. And I think that, those are, I'm jumping ahead of myself, but those are so much my concept of capacity building, which is about bringing ideas and resources and people together to find bold new solutions. That we have to be around the table in a way that everyone is welcome and everyone is valued. One of, again, an aha moment for me was about a year ago as part of my work, we sponsored, and again, I thought I was going to be educating the corporate world. And we did a conference on corporate social responsibility. I did in partnership with some business students and business and technology students. And we invited 7 major national and international companies to present on their corporate social responsibility. Naively in the nonprofits, we often see corporate social responsibility is the guys with money giving the people with no money resources to do what we know how to do, while they continue to do the making money stuff that we don't know how to do. And that's where I say the death or the end of Robin Hood, where Robin Hood and his band of merry men, or outlaws, I guess, this robbing from the rich to look after the poor has been a lot of how I think we have historically approached social services. Whereas, when we did this Corporate Social Responsibility Day, the thing that absolutely blew me away was the mining company, IBM, RIM. Their concept of social responsibility was, they do give some money to charities, but their concept of social responsibility was way bigger than that. It was around the products and services that they're developing to improve the quality of life and change the world. And included in that was a lot of the ways that they treat their own employees and the stakeholders, where the whole language now about having more than a financial bottom line, but also really being able to measure your impact with your social impact and your environmental impact is so deeply ingrained in some of these companies that I think it's a challenge for us as we learn more about capacity building to catch up with some of the rest of the world, where good things are happening. So when we talk about nonprofit, like when we talk about capacity building in nonprofits, we're talking, sometimes we don't even remember all the nonprofits that are that there are, like we forget about sports and recreation or churches, those are the two largest groups of nonprofits in our country. But our challenge, I think, is to go way beyond just the nonprofits and realize that hybrid that's out there now, these social ventures, the B corporations, the young folks that are, coming up with new solutions to complex problems and are really weighing, what do we do this as a profit or nonprofit venture, but they clearly have a social mission. So that to just say, the nonprofits are the capacity builders, I think is dated. That there's a new kind of energy, and again, it's maybe a reinvention of some of the things in history, but there sure are. I find once my position got identified in the community, the number of companies that have contacted me to look at ways that their employees can be involved in building the capacity of the nonprofits just absolutely blows me away. That we're working with one of the major insurance companies whose head office, Manulife actually, their head office is in Waterloo. And within the last 6 months, we have placed 50 of their senior executives on nonprofit boards in our community. Now they not only got matched with a board, but they also have gone through several days of pretty good board training. The morale in the company and the positive attitude around this is absolutely fascinating. They don't see this as doing something for those poor people. They really see it as they're also having a responsibility to, build our community. So we still, though, live in a world where there's a lot of uncharitable discrimination against nonprofits. And, there is still, and I think it's been touched on a little bit, in our talks, where, some deeply held values where if you're really charitable, you're not making much money, and we, are expected to operate in sort of burlap sack kinds of conditions and take very few risks because we're using public money, and it's better we do the same stupid thing over and over than try and find and don't risk getting in anybody's limelight, then try and find a new way of doing things that might fail. So, there is still, some really uncharitable attitudes towards the nonprofits. They come as much from within our sector, though, as without. The people within our own sector are the ones that often, are the carriers of those attitudes. If you read two books, if you read one book, I agree with Cheryl that Frances Wesley's Getting to Maybe you should read, but I suggest you read two books. And Dan Pallotta is an American author who has written a book called Uncharitable. And believe me, it's a really good book to read. It'll make you angry, but it also, I think, affirms some of our experience, and it encourages us to step up to the plate and look at the way that we're representing the importance of the work that we're doing. So Dan Pallotta is the author. If you do, look him up on YouTube and see him speaking. We're having him come to Kitchener. If y'all want to come to Kitchener, that'd be nice. He's coming to Kitchener in a couple weeks, but he's has a message that's really quite remarkable.